Hello, and welcome to the third part of my report. This will be about audit and the role of auditors. Let us start with defining what is governance audit. It is an objective review of how an organization is governed. This review looks at how the governance structure is designed and also how it is actually operating. It assesses whether there are adequate checks and balances in place for effective governance. Next, we go into the role of auditors in corporate governance. First is to promote accountability. The researchers have found out that the extent evaluating controls and operations as a role of auditors enhances corporate governance. Measures and policies introduced by external auditors are designed to compel accountability in the workplace. If an auditor has the slightest bit of suspicion of the legality and integrity of a record or a transaction, it is his or her duty to investigate and report it before he certifies it to be true. Next is to represent the interest of shareholders. One of the many important roles of auditing in corporate governance is to protect the interest of the shareholder and stakeholders of a company. It is made possible by conducting independent reports by auditors and not being influenced by the company. The third is crisis management. By developing efficient crisis management plans to be used in the event of allegations of corruption or fraud, an auditor helps in ensuring good corporate governance. Typically, the idea is to assign responsibilities to different officials of the administration. This provides that if the company becomes involved in a financial crisis, those officials have an action plan that can be used in making sure that the confidence among investors is sustained. Control measures that are to be used with media and law enforcement officials are part of the crisis management plans. Next is risk assessment and mitigation planning. Auditors help in promoting corporate governance by conducting a period risk assessment. Additionally, they also analyze the whole risk tolerance of the company and the efforts that the company has made toward lessening the risk. For example, if a government agency or a company has a system with an underperforming whistleblower, then the efforts may be made to improve the system in question. Next is to maintain strong relationship with regulators. The efforts put in by an auditor helps in fostering a good relationship with regulators. Mostly if the companies and agencies have transparent operations, the regulators are supportive of them. External auditors evaluate the compliance with the regulations of a company's organization. Once an auditor attests the company's disclosures, it is more likely that the regulators also show their trust towards them. Apart from examining the company's accounts and reports, these days, auditors are also asked to comment on internal control being practiced by the company. Now we go to kinds of audit in corporate governance. We have two kinds. It will be the internal audit and the external audit. The internal audit refers to an ongoing audit function performed within an organization by a separate internal auditing department. And an external audit is an audit function performed by the independent body, which is not a part of organization. I will be discussing the internal and external auditing in the context of corporate governance. So, what is the difference between the two? While internal and external audit functions are complementary and may need to work closely together, their purpose and areas of focus differ. The two functions do not compete or conflict. Rather, they both contribute to effective governance. So again, I will be discussing the auditing in the context of corporate governance and not the financial auditing. First, we go to audit purpose. Extending far beyond just the sphere of financial and compliance controls, internal audit exists to evaluate the organization's entire risk and control landscape, risk management effectiveness, and ramifications for organizational strategy and performance. The internal audit function should ideally be improvement-oriented. How can our governance and risk management processes be more effective in managing risk and supporting organizational objectives? External audit has no responsibility to evaluate GRC or governance risk management and compliance activities or to suggest improvements other than reporting internal control problems and identifying corrective actions needed to address non-compliance issues that may come up in their audit work. The next is audit focus. Internal auditors assess organizational health holistically, determining whether business practices are supporting strategic objectives and identifying risks that could impact those objectives. External auditors, on the other hand, focus on whether the organization's business accounts accurately and fairly represent its financial performance. Auditors from government or regulatory agencies look for any compliance deficiencies or violations. Internal audit work is forward-looking and proactive, and external audit looks at past record keeping or proof of compliance. The third is audit scope. The internal audit function is preventive and ongoing, providing insights and suggestions to management encompassing all governance, risk, and control processes, whereas an external audit tends to happen annually or at least once every 3 years. For compliance audit, the scope is determined by the regulatory body conducting the audit. Next is primary audits. Internal audit, as a part of its role in providing governance assurance, reports directly to senior management, the board of directors, the audit committee, and other groups within the organization's own governance boundary. External auditors, as a part of a wholly independent third party, report to a different audience which may include company members, shareholders, investors, customers, or regulators who are not part of the organization's internal governance structure. Next, we go to auditor skills. Internal auditors may come from a variety of professional or academic backgrounds, while external auditors are certified accountants for financial audits or compliance professionals or government employees for compliance audits. In some cases, potential or existing customers may request an audit to verify that an organization is meeting their requirements. For internal auditing, objective and independent assurance is a key principle. So despite the fact that internal auditors have a vested interest in their organization, they could still be independent from the activities they audit. Next is employment relationship. How can an internal auditor maintain objectivity when they are employees of the organization they're auditing? The Internal Auditors Association states that there should be no personal or professional involvement or allegiance to the area being audited. This is encouraged by reporting lines to the audit committee and or the senior management of the board rather than into the business area being audited. So for coordinating internal and external audit, while the purpose, the focus, and the outcomes of their fieldwork vary, internal and external auditors often share information to avoid duplication and improve audit coverage. External auditors may so choose to leverage internal audit's wide-ranging understanding of the organization's risk and control environment. Internal audit departments can pave the way for better communication and coordination by making sure the risk assessments, work papers, reports, and other documentation are prepared in an easy-to-use format. Internal auditors take a holistic view of their organization's governance, risk, and control systems, or in other words, primarily non-financial information. While external auditors are either concerned with the accuracy of business accounts and the organization's financial conditions, or in the aspect of corporate governance, the organization's compliance with laws and regulations. Let's go to corporate governance rating for companies. There are advantages when an external reviewer is brought in to assess an organization, such as objectivity, independence, a fresh perspective, as well as a better approach to uncomfortable and possibly sensitive issues, and can lead to a better diagnosis of the root causes of board-level problems. The corporate governance rating is provided for by a rating entity after deriving information about the adoption of corporate governance by an institution through reports of analysts. Some of the processes adopted by rating agencies before coming up with corporate governance rating are macro and micro analysis, crucial data such as proceedings of shareholder meetings, minutes of board meetings, cases filed by consumers and suppliers, among others. There are a lot of rating agencies, each with their own system and tools for assessing governance. What I will discuss are the most common ones and most mentioned in books and articles. First, we go to Standard and Poor Global, or SP Global. It is a company, a leading index provider and data source of independent credit ratings. The name comes from a 1941 merger of two financial data publications. It offers corporate governance rating services. It is independent and does not offer company advisory or training services. It acts in cooperation of the company, interviewing senior executives and directors, reviewing information on both public domain and confidential data. It uses the management and governance data published in 2012, and it evaluates insurers and non-financial enterprise management and governance credit factors. Scoring of management and governance is made on a scale of weak, fair, satisfactory, or strong, depending on the mix of positive and negative management scores and the existence and severity of governance deficiencies. The second is ISS Governance Quality Score. Founded in 1985, Institutional Shareholder Services Group of Companies empowers investors and companies to build for long-term and sustainable growth by providing high-quality data, analytics, and insight. Governance Quality Score uses a numeric decile-based score that indicates a company's governance risk relative to their index or region. Companies receive an overall quality score and a score for each of the four categories, which is board structure, compensation or remuneration, shareholder rights, audit, and risk oversight. The third is MSCI World Governance Quality Index. Morgan Stanley Capital International is an investment research firm that provides stock indexes, portfolio risk and performance analytics, and governance tools to institutional investors and hedge funds. MSCI World Governance Quality Index is based on MSCI World Index, which serves as the parent index, which includes large and mid-cap stocks across 23 developed countries. The standard of corporate governance is measured through a criteria such as independence and diversity of the board of directors, ownership and control structure of the company, accounting practices, and auditor opinions. The fourth is FTSE Russell. The Financial Times Exchange, or now known as FTSE Russell Group, is a British financial organization that specializes in providing index offerings for the global financial markets. FTSE Ratings, ESG ratings, and data model allows investors to understand a company's exposure to and management of ESG issues in multiple dimensions. It is comprehensive, allows flexibility and customization, emphasis on materiality, precise rules and focus on data, objective and strong governance, and sustainable development goals aligned. DNB is a Norwegian company and provides services such as technical assessment, certification, risk management, and software development. It benchmarks the standing of companies' corporate governance and corporate responsibility against comparable companies. The methodology works with the company for answers to detailed questions derived from international codes, best practice experience, and writings of corporate governance experts. Now we go to corporate governance assessment systems for countries. First is the World Bank and International Monetary Fund Joint Initiative. The ROSC, or the Reports on the Observance of Standards and Codes Program, is administered by the World Bank and IMF, which have recognized international standards in 12 policy areas. The World Bank focuses on three of these: accounting and auditing, corporate governance, insolvency, and creditor rights. The second is EBRD, or the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. EBRD is an international financial institution founded in 1991. EBRD tries to help governments, policymakers, and all those promoting new legislation for the development of corporate governance-related legal reform. The third is the well-known IFC, or the International Finance Corporation. IFC is the largest global development institution focused on the private sector in developing countries. IFC was founded in 1956 on a bold idea that the private sector has the potential to transform developing countries. It works with countries which have an important potential for growth but weak corporate governance practices. It has 6 areas of governance, and it is a commitment to good corporate governance, the board of directors, control environment and processes, transparency and disclosure, shareholder rights, and governance of stakeholder engagement. As I was researching for material, I keep seeing ESG on my search for assessment tools and rating companies. So what is ESG? It stands for environmental, social, and governance criteria. According to Investopedia, ESG are a set of standards for a company's operations that socially conscious investors use to screen potential investments. Environmental criteria may include the company's energy use, waste, pollution, natural resource conservation, and treatment of animals. The criteria can also be used in evaluating any environmental risk a company might face and how the company is managing those risks. The social criteria examines how it manages relationship with employees, suppliers, customers, and communities where it operates. Governance. Investors may want to know that a company uses accurate and transparent accounting methods and that stockholders are allowed to vote on important issues. They may also want assurances that companies avoid conflicts of interest in their choice of board members, don't use political contributions to obtain unduly favorable treatment, and of course, don't engage in illegal practices. ESG has grown to become a global mainstay that has an impact on companies. All in all, the role of an audit committee and auditors has become very crucial in the current scenario. Stakeholders expect loyalty and trust from the auditor while resolving financial facts and exposing the fault in an organization. The auditing committee and the auditor should perform their role diligently and ethically to secure the interests of not only the company and investors, but all stakeholders. This is possible when independent directors will have their own weight and right to ask questions to management, which in turn will give strength to the auditor to be ethical. Thank you.